Well, we're gonna get back to work.
To Africa we go. Ghana is in Africa.
Yeah, see, I said Ghana, but it sounds like Ghana.
Yeah, I may not be geographically accurate there.
No sign of Rutland so far. Have we worked out what he's doing here?
No, but there's something else. When I was going over the map, Winston said your parents have been there. Your dad worked this site before you were born.
That's not so peculiar. It happens occasionally.
There should be an optional cutscene here, if you look back at the bike, where Lara just stands there with a tear in her eye and rattles off all of the stats again and the standard market retail price, while lamenting that she should bring it with her. But unfortunately, there are some things that even the Ducati 999 can't solve.
If all else fails, I can get into
Okay, the Ducati's pretty good product placement. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, now look at the little termites mucking it all up. That won't do at all.
Looks like
Jeep.
they didn't get in from this side. Any ideas?
We'll see. I do my best thinking plunging off cliffs.
So we have a Jeep, and I'm gonna assume the product placement startup for Frigidaire is what they were dangling into the waterfall.
So the Swan Dive, this is an iconic move that has been with Lara since the very first game.
Ooh.
And I don't know if it's intentional, but throughout the series, both modern and the classics, it feels like there's a running gag where certain scripted events where you have to swan dive, where Lara gets as close to the edge as she possibly can without braining herself.
And it still looks like she should have brained herself.
Yes, absolutely. Like an inch or two away from total death.
Maybe not total death. Maybe just, quadriplegic, It almost fulfills the gaming in the Clinton years video.
Man, there may be some people too young to remember when that spread across the internet like wildfire. Perhaps I need to insert the most memorable clip from, it was specifically a review of Tomb Raider 2.
Yep.
We have a challenge to IDOS. In Tomb Raider 3, create a storyline in which Lara gets breast cancer. Imagine the drama of a vulnerable Lara Croft still persisting in her worldly adventures despite her illness. It needs fleshing out, no pun intended, but we guarantee the gaming world would be shocked, stunned, and moved at the effort to make Lara's character more meaningful.
That looks important. Perhaps we'll be coming back this way later.
I like the sprawling levels in this series.
Yeah, that is something that Legend's level design is very linear. The next two games in this mini trilogy, which is Tomb Raider Anniversary, which was a remake of the first one, and Tomb Raider Underworld, the levels in those games are far more sprawling. This, I think, was intentionally, like, the level design was intentionally reined in a bit, just to reintroduce Lara to a new generation. And maybe for engine constraints as well, like they didn't quite have a handle on how to design for this new moveset yet.
How to really do the scope, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, that's where we put the temple.
Grand entrances are
Zip, I appreciate that you're trying to contribute, but we're the ones let's playing here.
Lara, you're a busy beaver, aren't you?
Oh, and Zip, I have your car keys.
It's Rutland. Fancy dropping down for a chat then?
Only if you can shoot this far.
I feel like there should be some quirky sitcom music playing over this. I did consider editing in a laugh track.
But,
This is very sitcom.
Figure out where these sword pieces originally came from. Just you and me for now.
Oh, so that automatically, this means this is the best level in the game because Alistair is currently unavailable.
Yes!
So there's actually a third of our rewards here, even before we've entered the gate. I think I may have forgotten to like just sit there for a moment and look at them, but they are a specific type of tribal mask. I don't know for sure, but I believe they are Ligby masks. Ligbi. It's an anagram of Studio Ghibli, but without the H or the studio. Ligby masks they're used by the Ligby people, who are predominantly Muslim, and Ligby masks are used by ceremonial dancers, particularly towards the end of Ramadan. That seems to be the big thing they're used for.
Gotcha.
When using free aim, the grapple is kind of inconsistent. It's supposed to be that when the cursor turns blue, that means you're in range, but it doesn't always work.
So what kind of ancient artifact you got there?
The modern kind. Rutland's men must have been using it to move about.
The idea of this sequence being that the water is actually pushing you back, so you have to grapple that platform over to here.
I've seen this before. In my father's sketchbook. He has...
Again, a physics puzzle.
A physics puzzle at a time where such things were, a relative novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh, there's someone around the corner. Now, this fight has a what I believe is a particularly callous or cruel scripted event attached to it. Very uncharacteristic for Zip to be saying this.
Darn, it wasn't Rutland.
He's still outside.
Fucking Christ, Zip. I thought I liked you.
Although he is not wrong.
Not very effective for a trap.
Not these days. Something must be jamming the works.
Well, I mean, things are looking up a bit. We did get a shotgun out of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, this is not Uncharted. We cannot look at Lara's notebook whenever we want, so we'll just have to take her word on these markings also showing up in her father's sketchbook.
What a remarkable contraption.
I suppose it's worth noting that, I mean, really starting with the Angelina Jolie films was the first time where issues with parental issues, not just daddy issues, but parental issues in general, became a part of Lara's character. In the original core design continuity, Lara's parents are actually still alive throughout the whole thing. In fact, there's a sequence towards the beginning of Tomb Raider Chronicles where you can see Lara's parents at a memorial for Lara, because at this time, everyone thinks Lara is dead. And that's the only time they're on screen, really, is to mourn the loss of their daughter. As far as they do.
Which is an interesting plot element. I'm not sure what they were going for with that, but, I remember when that was, like, the big advertising controversy for the series.
So we'll need to use the turret eventually, but I wouldn't really recommend it for combat, generally speaking, especially on hard, because it feels like enemies are... I feel like their AI is scripted so that they're more likely to throw grenades at your feet when you're using a turret. I don't know for sure, it just feels like it, though.
That would explode.
Yes!
There's a lot of fun to be had with the various quotes when using the rad mode, particularly because it always pulls from the same RNG pool.
Yeah.
Which means that it is possible for Alistair to have a line showing up here, even though he is at the moment indisposed.
This water wheel appears to be jammed.
We might never know what it does. That pillar looks too heavy to move.
There's more than one way to put a wheel spinning.
Perhaps you figured out what you were supposed to do already.
I got a pretty good idea of how this is gonna work. We have to backtrack 2 rooms and grab an aardvark.
No, that would have happened in like an earlier Tomb Raider game. This is streamlined.
This is somewhat realistic. This is setting expectations.
Well, we do have to deal with the water wheel eventually, but I'll admit, I edited this part a couple months ago. I'm not entirely sure why I left this in. Although there will be a recurring theme, which I believe was intentional back when I edited this, where I will miss several easy-looking jumps in a row, because the engine that this game uses is, well, I mean, it didn't start out as, okay, it started out as a proprietary engine. Eventually, if I recall correctly, the version of this engine that was used in Tomb Raider Underworld would eventually be used for Deus Ex Human Revolution as well.
Really?
Or at least like a variant of it.
Oh.
Water wheel's got things running again. Congratulations, you got your wish. The place is a death trap.
It needed a woman's touch.
The quips are very choice. It's...
We're not quite done yet, but we're getting there. Because this is now like full 3D as opposed to being on a grid, which all of the core design era Tomb Raider games, they were the kind of games they looked like action games, but really Lara was technically moving on a grid where each full step was 1 space forward and each walk or sidle was half a space.
You should be able to move that, if it's any help.
She was on a grid, which was the 3D of the time.
And there's another perfect example of Alistair coming back from whatever the hell he was doing to very briefly chime in with some useless information. So we do need to get this wheel running again. However, as you can see, there's already water here. This is a glitch with the next-gen texture pack, where for some reason the water is always flowing here, even though we won't be able to solve this puzzle for a bit yet.
Oh, that would be confusing.
From what I understand, a lot of these technical issues do not exist in the Xbox 360 version, which is what these textures were designed for. And of course, there are some sequences where you're just not able to progress at all without the use of a fan patch.
This channel runs directly down to the wheel.
Can't have a wheel without a couple 1,000 gallons of water.
No, it's simply not done.
In fact, you'll see just on the edge here, yeah, this is a water texture that is meant for once the water level is raised.
Yeah. And it's kind of... Yeah. So, I think it's funny that this is the second game I think we've played in total that has like a high def pack like this.
Yeah, the other one was Lords of Shadow 2.
Okay, so 3. The other one was Hydrophobia.
Well, that was like a full remake.
That was a... Yeah. Core concept's the same. Water physics, very choice in that. Everything is touched up in this except the water physics. The water looks so bad in this. It looks like a function of the time.
Mechanism.
Well, it's a good thing that this entire level does not involve almost entirely around raising and lowering water levels.
Yeah. Instead, we're doing blocks.
more water that shouldn't be there. So I guess that since we do have some time here while I'm going around solving this puzzle, I have some things to say about this game, or not this game, but this engine's use of its checkpoint system. It's not that big of a deal in Legend because the levels are so linear that you're basically never in danger of running into a checkpoint that you shouldn't. But the way that this engine's checkpoint system works is that every time you cross the threshold for a checkpoint, it will always activate, regardless of what state the game is in. And it's more for your location than anything.
No.
Again, in Legend, it's not a big deal because the levels are so linear. But once you get to Anniversary, and especially to Underworld, it is so easy to accidentally go back to an earlier checkpoint when you get lost, and you accidentally backtrack and then just hit the wrong checkpoint. There have been multiple times when I was replaying Underworld recently, on multiple occasions, I mistimed a jump and died, and as Lara's ragdoll was flying through the air, it hit the threshold for a checkpoint at a lower part of the level, and when the game reloaded, it started me there.
Oh no. Checkpoint punishment is awful. Like,
Well, yeah, this is the extremely rare example of a checkpoint system that is broken by being too lenient. And even then, this only really applies to the other two games in this trilogy. And in Legend, you would have to go out of your way to, glitch the game or something to find yourself backtracking to a wrong checkpoint.
so I just had to fact check myself here before I said something. That raft puzzle is very similar to a raft puzzle that shows up in Arkham City a scant 5 years after this game came out. So, imitation, sincerest form of flattery.
I think I remember. Yeah, is that in the Iceberg Lounge when you're trying to avoid Penguin's shark?
Yup. I'm trying to think who. Rocksteady was Arkham City. Yeah.
So in order to raise the water level here, we will have to free this poor statue's arms. It is the kind of set piece that would just be a small part of an earlier Tomb Raider level. But I suppose the challenge is that you only have one person on the radio instead of two. Does that count as a difficulty spike?
No, not at all.
Perhaps by this game's standards it does.
I am seeing a lot of the mechanical primordial soup of the Survivor series in this level.
Yeah, in terms of its mechanical history, this trilogy is pretty interesting because, we start out with Legend, which is a completely unique game. And then we get to Anniversary, which Anniversary and Underworld were developed at the same time with one studio of the junior developers working on Anniversary while the senior members of the team worked on Underworld. Actually, that ends up being very similar to what happened with Tomb Raider Chronicles and Tomb Raider: The Angel of Darkness, although this time around it worked far better. But you also start to see that there are gameplay ideas that are integrated into the older levels of Tomb Raider 1 in Anniversary that then come back in a far more refined state in Underworld. It also helps, I think I've been underselling just how much more open-ended the levels in I mean, particularly Underworld, to a lesser extent Anniversary, at times it feels like an overcorrection to how linear the levels are in this game. I for many years, I and others got stuck on a particular sequence in the very first level of Underworld because it overcorrected. There wasn't enough direction for what was supposed to be like the first big puzzle of the game.
Huh.
Looks good. Think the wheel's turning yet?
Let's have a look.
Yeah, the wheels had water this whole time, bud.
You just couldn't see the rising level of the water. It's powered by the power of belief. Now that Lara has solved the puzzle, she believes that the water is now up. I forgot a reward had to come back up here.
She's clapped. She saved Tinkerbell. The water level is rising. We're all good.
Whether or not it can save Alistair from whatever he's doing, that's yet to be determined.
My headcanon is he spends entire levels just raiding her fridge, and now I see how that whole texture is supposed to fit together.
Yeah, it looks far worse than it does in like the earlier state of that puzzle. Well. Yeah. Yep. That. On the other hand, perhaps we spoke too soon.
The HD texture pack. It's mostly pretty. Mostly.
And this is after I patched it. Like, this is the fact that I'm able to complete the entire game at all with this texture pack turned on is not something you could do out of the box.
No.
Anyway, here's upcoming is another example of the variance in height on these swinging poles. Means that this simple jump, what should be a simple jump from swinging pole to rope, is it's
incredibly difficult, if not impossible.
No, the thing is that the way that it lines up, you have to wait for the bar to raise much higher before you can actually make this jump. Otherwise, it will phase right through. There's something about the particular the state of the animation lock, I suppose.
Also, there she goes diving into a shallow pool again.
I think that fits a lot better with the more recent version of Lara, who it's strongly implied is more of a death seeker. And this version of Lara is still in use, like even after the reboot. Like if you've played any of the spin-off games, like Lara Croft Go, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Lights, or any of the mobile games, they still use this version of Lara. They use the same sound effects that this trilogy does, same voice actress, same character model more or less.
They don't build them like that anymore.
Like, it's weird that even at the height of the Survivor trilogy, both versions of this character were in heavy circulation and promotion.
Yeah.
I must install some of these in the gym.
Remind me later to cancel my membership.
The swan dive in the older games was more of a secret move. You had to hold jump while holding walk and interact at the same time, which is already awkward enough on controller, but with the default keyboard settings, it was moving forward and then Alt, Control, and Shift while jumping off of a ledge with a specific height.
Yeah, the original PC games were more of a person simulator than they were an actual action game.
Something.
Oh, hell no!
I give them credit for doing a lot with a little. I was trying to figure out if that was the Razer logo on the side of the boulder and that was another product placement.
There you are.
Would not put it past this
You
game.
found something about the sword.
It's the Razer Crusher, man. When you need something to chase you down a hallway, extreme chase you down a hallway.
There is a plot device in Tomb Raider Underworld that... Oh,
That's odd.
hold on a second. I'll talk about that later, but we missed a story development. That
Oh, no.
Alistair came back, but then now Zip and Alistair are both gone. Something happened to them.
Maybe she doesn't have service. Maybe she has AT&T. There's your next product placement.
No, she's using AT&T. This is sponsored by Sprint, though. This is what happens when you don't
That's what
switch
it is.
carriers. And there you go. That's
What it is.
a better look at the Ligby mask.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't know for sure. I'm just going by because this is like the closest. It's close to the kind of shape that a Ligby mask would be, but also that group of people is primarily found around Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana in that area of Western Africa. So I was mentioning before that there is a plot device in Underworld that looks suspiciously, from certain angles, looks suspiciously like the logo for Under Armour. I don't think it was intentional.
Or was it?
Alistair, do you read me?
If it was intentional, it would be a very strange choice, given that once we get to Underworld, oh wait, Underworld, Under Armour, perhaps it was more than just a coincidence.
We're through the looking glass now, people. Oh, conspiracies.
Zip, are you there? Alistair? All those satellites and computers just to perfect the science of talking to oneself.
Well, don't you worry. The next iteration of your character will be very, very fond of talking to herself constantly. Because that's what AAA protagonists do now.
Hello? Are you chaps getting any of this?
Are you talking to us or to Zip and Alistair?
What are they doing?
Anyway, I'm sure they're fine.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing could possibly happen to the comic relief characters.
This shouldn't be here. Oh. Dearest Amelia, yours always, Richard. It was Mother's. Zip, can you hear me? Where are you?
No.
Nothing possibly bad could happen to comic relief characters,
Oh,
particularly
yeah.
in a dark moment where the story
You know.
seems to have turned against our protagonist.
I heard something.
I've got no communication with my support team in the middle of a Crash Bandicoot level. What could go wrong?
I love these two guys. They are perfectly in sync. Another unfortunate trend of 2000s gaming. Oh, I was about to look down there, but I forgot that there's another enemy that spawns. When it comes to the I didn't notice that until just now. How perfectly the grenade bounced off of Lara as she was swinging across the gap.
We're still alive down here.
It's not the spikes that kill you, it's the grenade.
Yeah.
So with the way that the gunplay and the targeting system work, when the reticle is gray, it doesn't mean that you are entirely out of range. It just means that your accuracy is significantly reduced.
Gotcha.
I also just remember this, that throwing that grenade in that particular arc is actually really hard. Because the only other way that you could do it without making that Hail Mary throw is I couldn't you can't throw your grenade at all. You would basically have to drop it here and then run back to that other pillar to get out of the way of the explosion. So when your lock-on is within range, when the cursor is red, that means that you're at like 90-95% accuracy, whereas if it's in gray, it's closer to like 5 to 10%. So you can still hit enemies at that range, but you're wasting ammo.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, that gimmick of using an exploding barrel to blow up unaware enemies is not something that shows up again. I feel like there's a lot of missed potential. Like in particular, like you can see the halfway point between where third-person shooters would start adapting stealth directly into their combat. We're at a point where you can ambush enemies, kind of, but we have yet to see the era of, well, not quite core cover shooting, because that kind of style doesn't have stealth at all. But instead, like, here's a good example. I'm still hitting the enemy. It's just taking a lot longer because my accuracy is so much worse.
Yeah. This is all very much inklings of ideas that are Road to the Survivor trilogy.
Oddly enough, this trilogy of games would actually get more arcadey with its combat as it goes along. In part because Anniversary was a remake of Tomb Raider 1 that had very few human enemies to begin with. So you're basically only fighting wild animals until like a point very late in the game. And then by the time you get to Underworld, it's more about like tactical positioning almost. Also, this grenade launcher is absolutely terrible for the simple reason that you are launching grenades, specifically the grenades that are used in this game, which as grenade launcher rounds are terrible. Because again, there's no contact on the grenade, and it bounces with the same physics as you would with any other grenade.
That's problematic, yeah.
It's not a good weapon. Anyway, Tomb Raider Underworld, once/if I get to that game, it's got some weird combat, man. I like the level design. I like the atmosphere. Controls aren't great, but whatever. It's the combat is neither good nor bad. It's just very strange.
This isn't god awful, like, environmental design. I feel like it's doing really well with the clip through a boulder. It's doing really well with the environmental storytelling. Unfortunately, the story that it's telling is of a development team that kind of rushed a little, maybe.
They were focused more on creating set pieces first and then writing stories around it, which I mean, aside from maybe Angel of Darkness, that's how all of the previous Tomb Raider games were written. This is inspired by pulp adventure novels that were, written for teenage boys in the 1940s, and it is carrying on that tradition in much the same way that the Indiana Jones films do.
This is inspired by someone asking the question, what if Indiana Jones but boobs?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So funny story about that. Also, just regarding the writing, actually, I don't know if I have time to talk about that. I may have to save that for the next episode, because
Now that's pretty cool.
I'm glad that Zip and Alistair took time from possibly being kidnapped to comment on how cool everything is in this temple. That's commitment.
That's gotta be a bug.
Absolutely it is. I was talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
That all of when using the rad, all of those quotes are generated from the same pool, regardless of whether it would make story sense. So yes, I will need to talk about I completely forgot how you're actually supposed to get this gold reward, but you might be able to figure it out from watching the gameplay that we talked over. So the short version of, before we're getting into the boss fight, the short version of this is that the Lara's original creator, Toby Gard, who left core design after the first game, came back to work on this trilogy of games, and they also kind of pushed that in the marketing. Like, we're taking this seriously. We're bringing back Lara's original creator to help us out so that we don't screw it up. And there's a lot more about his involvement that I could talk about later in another video, because we're about to have our boss fight here.
Lara, you came for the Galali key too, then? Perfect.
Pretend I don't know what you're talking about.
For the benefit of the audience.
No, it's what puts the sword back together. It's the size of a fist. And according to Amanda's research, it's here.
What do you know about Amanda? Where is she?
So, your father did some digging here, didn't he? You know, Amanda thought maybe he found the key.
I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me about that sword fragment you're so fond of waving about.
Well, I have been spending some time with it, and I've learned a couple of things. Let me show you.
Well, we're fighting Rutland now. This is a particularly infamous fight, both for his very limited pool of battle lines, but also just for being very annoying. I don't blame the team for making a boss fight this bad, because honestly, it kind of fits his character. He's a snobby little bitch who will run away at every chance he gets. Like, mechanically it may not be good, but it is at least consistent with James Rutland as he has thus been portrayed.
He is a bit of a weasel.
He also really likes that particular melee attack of his, which this does not help the stereotype that so much of Tomb Raider's combat is jumping around and rolling.
Boy, if yours is great, man, yeah.
Depending on whether or not we get to Anniversary and Underworld, this will only get more pronounced.
Yeah, this is pretty repetitive.
You may notice that we've only done about 10% of his health bar here. There is a speedrunning strategy where if you have enough grenades and you time it exactly, you can stun lock him, so that you can kill him instantly as soon as he jumps down from that first platform. But I don't know how to do that. It looks pretty cool though.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to point out that as Tam said, the grenade launcher sucks so bad he's not using it during this fight.
Bet you wish you could do that, huh? Bet you wish you could do that, huh? Fine. We'll do it your way.
It's also I mean, the game kind of expects you to pull down those platforms when he's on them, but it is a reasonable strategy to pull them down anyway, even when he's not on them, because it essentially forces him into a more predictable pattern, where he will alternate between melee and grenades.
I'm really not your enemy, Rutland. These pieces weren't broken apart. They were designed to separate and reattach.
I can't believe that Excalibur, or whatever it is made out of Lego.
The Crusades? King Arthur?
History doesn't interest me.
Well, that much is evident. I don't think you've opened a history textbook since 8th grade.
You won't enjoy seeing me again.
Your father might not have found the Galali key, but Amanda doesn't know that. She's at your mansion right now. You better have good insurance.
Oh, are we getting a mansion level?
Finally. I've been trying to get through for ages. What happened?
This woman just tore her way through the front door. She had some sort of, I don't know what the hell it was. It was like black smoke.
I'll be there straight away.
No, we're fine. Look, you've got to follow her. She's going for another piece of the sword.
What? Where?
In Kazakhstan, I found a photo that matches the pieces you have.
All right. Do an inventory and try to locate something called the Galali key. Meanwhile, it looks as if
Well, the good news is that Lara is insured for Croft Manor. She paid off those premiums, a couple of years back, but regrettably, she does not have comic relief sidekick insurance. So if Zip and Alistair die, that's coming out of her paycheck.
If Zip and Alistair die, all she can afford is Statler and Waldorf.
They might be an improvement, honestly.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So we've also established that our next plot device is the Galali key. That is what is going to combine the various pieces of Lego Excalibur. Galali is basically a made-up word it sounds African. I did find out that Galali is, with that specific spelling, is a somewhat common surname for people of Kurdistani ancestry. I guess there are, according to the website Forebears, there are 240 people in Morocco with that surname.
Interesting.
Which makes it the 569,728th most common surname in the world. But we got to get those numbers up, I think. So next video is going to be a two-parter, though I will be uploading them at the same time. In hindsight, perhaps I should have split up some of the other longer levels as well, but this is the only one I did it for. And I've mentioned before that there's at least one level that is impossible to complete with 1.0 while using the HD texture pack, and it's this one in Kazakhstan that we're going to see later on. There's a specific set piece early in the game that is mandatory, or early in the level that is mandatory, that you have to go through, and it crashes 100% of the time if you're playing unpatched.
So we're gonna see it in original graphics glory.
Oh no, I'm using a fan patch.
Oh, thank God.
I
was worried for a second there.
Yeah, thankfully there are. I mean I guess the quality of the various PC ports throughout the history of the Tomb Raider series has been a bit rocky. Some of them have been quite good, actually. The original, or the PC version of the original Tomb Raider was notable for, first of all, it introduced an expansion pack. It had a custom level editor included, and it actually got rid of the old save system. I don't know how familiar you are with Tomb Raider as a franchise, but the PlayStation versions of Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 3 had a particular save system. There were these crystals that would be spread out throughout the level. Oh. And you could save exactly once at each crystal per playthrough.
Oh Lord. Oh God. No, thank you. I'm glad I skipped that crap.
Yeah. Thankfully the remastered re-releases of Tomb Raider 1 to 3 that came out for all major platforms a while back, that got rid of that save system entirely, as did back in the day the PC version of Tomb Raider 1. So next time we'll be going to Kazakhstan, perhaps the exact opposite climate-wise of where we just were, and we'll be learning a lot more about the nature of exactly what this Excalibur-esque thing is, and a bit more about the general backstory of the mythology.
Oh, excellent. We get the little bag of parts to put them back together, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay.